Topuria. There it is. Big shot. Oh, he hurt.
He's fucking good, man.
I am more than impressed. I'm blown away, man.
Ilia Topuria is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. At UFC 308, El Matador achieved what 30 men, including the likes of Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Alexander Volkanovski, couldn't. He sent Max Holloway to the Ghost Club for the very first time in the Hawaiian's illustrious career.
Yeah, he's legit. If you question a guy after Volk, I mean, you can't question him after tonight. He is legit.
Topuria has knocked out 5 out of his 8 UFC opponents, including the legendary Alex Volkanovski. And it's clear as day that he's armed with an atrocious amount of power, packed into a small frame.
Ilia not only wins against great champions, he knocked them out.
Think of him as a pocket version of Francis Ngannou or Alex Pereira. But it's not just his brute force that makes him a threat. Topuria is exceptionally well-rounded in nearly every aspect of MMA, and in my opinion, the most talented and perhaps the scariest featherweight the UFC has ever seen. And I'm here to break down exactly why. At UFC 308, Topuria battled who many thought was his toughest test to date, and it showed when he went toe-to-toe with Holloway in 2 incredibly close opening rounds. The scorecards after the fight revealed that Topuria won both rounds on 2 judges' scorecards, while it was a draw on the scorecards of the 3rd judge. The fight was close, but Holloway was having the better of the exchanges, irrespective of what the scores might suggest. He was sticking and moving and attacking Topuria before circling away from the danger zone. It was frustrating for Topuria, who punched the air at least a dozen times as Max's big frame allowed him to control distance. However, Topuria was still using one weapon to absolute perfection. Throughout the first 2 rounds, he targeted Max's lead leg and chopped it down like a tree.
I think that the early calf kicks, added up and took their toll later on in the fight. Those things are so devastating when people throw them the right way.
It was clear that he anticipated Holloway's constant movement and opted for low kicks to neutralize that agility, and the plan paid off handsomely. By the time the 3rd round came around, Holloway's lead leg was bruised and stiff as a board. That is exactly why, when Topuria finally unleashed his dynamite right hand, one that had eluded its target in the first 2 rounds, Max simply couldn't escape in time and had his brain cells orbiting in all directions. With Holloway's defensive walls cracked beyond repair, Topuria went for the kill and demolished the legend with a left hook, followed by complementary hammer fists. This wasn't a washed-up Max Holloway. This was a Max in his physical and mental prime. That was a Max who had just demolished an assassin like Justin Gaethje, and Ilia outsmarted him and knocked him out cold. It was the exact same against Alex Volkanovski at UFC 298. Topuria's performances weren't a perfect 10. He was the nail at times, both against Holloway and Volkanovski, but his ability to stick to his game plan and adapt in between rounds is the reason why he stands tall as one of the scariest fighters on the planet. The dude hits like a nuke. His boxing is the best in the UFC. His kicking game is improving by the day. He has a wrestling background with 8 submission wins to his name. He has cardio for days, and he can take a punch. When was the last time we witnessed a fighter this complete? Out of all the fighters who have held the UFC featherweight title, Topuria is arguably the most talented. A 27-year-old Jose Aldo, the UFC's inaugural featherweight champion, comes close. The Brazilian kicked like a mule. His combination striking gave his opponents nightmares. His wrestling and BJJ were top-notch too. But what seemed to let his game down was his boxing. The King of Rio's unusually high and narrow stance was perfect for unleashing his powerful switch kicks and knees, but it didn't serve him as well in boxing exchanges. His stance shortened his reach on straight punches, often leaving him overextended and off balance as he tried to land. Remember when he got knocked out by Conor McGregor in 13 seconds? That was the reason why. Ilia's just so tight and compact with his punches, and he never steps a foot wrong when attacking. In more ways than one, Topuria's rise has reminded many of Conor McGregor, the man who failed to reach his potential at featherweight. Both Topuria and McGregor had a similar rise to the top. Both talked the talk and then walked the walk. Both dressed like superstars. Both exhumed confidence and charisma, and both knocked people out left, right, and center. But there are things that Topuria does that McGregor couldn't or didn't. First of all, Topuria actually defended his title. McGregor didn't. Topuria has one-punch knockout power that melts fighters. Conor had one-punch knockout power that mostly either dropped his foes or rattled them, and given Conor is significantly bigger, I'd say Topuria's hands are way more dangerous. Conor's boxing, angles, his speed, and footwork were second to none, especially in his prime. While Topuria may not have that same swagger and movement, his boxing is very polished. His punches are very tight, very technical, and he rarely misses his mark. Conor had a significantly better kicking game, but Topuria's wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and cardio are the reasons why he's far more talented than a prime Conor McGregor. As far as Max Holloway is concerned, well, Topuria just knocked him out, so that should settle the debate in itself. But let's just compare the two as well. Holloway has excellent boxing. In fact, he was the best boxer in the UFC until Topuria proved otherwise. Holloway was never a power puncher, has decent kicks, a great takedown defense, and decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But he does most of his work with his hands, movement, and distance management. Topuria does it all. Now, out of all four men who have held the featherweight belt at some point, Alex Volkanovski matches up the best with Topuria. Like Topuria, Volk has a background in Greco-Roman wrestling. Like Topuria, he's short, has a low center of gravity, and great balance. Like Topuria, he has cardio for days and a fight IQ that is off the charts. But unlike Topuria, Volkanovski doesn't have those nuclear fists. Sure, he can crack, but it has to be his best punch that knocks someone out cold. Topuria's every overhand right or hook has enough sting in it to shut someone's lights out, and his power doesn't diminish over time either, which is incredible. Unlike Conor McGregor, who was mostly a one-round wonder, Topuria can knock his foe out in round 1, round 2, round 3, 4, 5, and any moment of the fight. Volkanovski might have a better kicking game than Topuria, but the Georgian has better speed, better control, and better boxing. Also, he's just 27 years old, which means he hasn't even hit his prime yet, which is a scary thought. At only 27 years old, Topuria has taken out 8 UFC fighters and 2 GOATs back-to-back. He is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, and if all goes well, nothing is going to stop him from becoming the greatest featherweight and one of the greatest fighters of all time.
When you keep clipping legends, legend after legend after legend, you become a legend. So he's on the right path.
He has already destroyed Volkanovski and Holloway, and has enough balls to give Volk a second go at him. If he beats Alexander the Great a second time around, which I believe he will, he'll probably need to make a very strong case to deny his featherweight GOAT status. Right now, there's nobody in the featherweight division that appears to have the skills to match this wrecking ball of fury. If we look at the current top 5, Topuria has already beaten number 1 and number 2, Volk and Holloway. Diego Lopez will be a very interesting fight, but I'd still favor Topuria, and number 4 and 5 ranked Yair Rodriguez and Movsar Evloev are too one-dimensional to give Topuria a seriously tough test. Topuria is here to rule for a long time. But if you guys think otherwise, let me know in the comments section below. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.